GamingBolt presents 15 insane horror games on the PS4 you absolutely need to play. Whatever the type of game being played, the theme of horror has its own appeal. Some of the most compelling titles available on current-gen consoles are horror titles. On top of presenting interesting narratives and memorable characters, they feature some good to great gameplay. So let's go ahead and take a look at 15 of the insane horror games on the PS4 that you need to play. Note that some of these releases are available on multiple platforms as well. Until Dawn. Wonky frame rate aside, there's a whole lot to like about Supermassive Games' Until Dawn. It has all the odes to a teenage horror slasher, except the overall direction is influenced by your decision making. The backstory and lore is fairly well done, even if some of your characters can be grating, and I'm looking at you, Emily. Most importantly of all, it's scary, especially when making all the wrong decisions and potentially getting everyone killed because, well, they die in horrible, horrible ways. Resident Evil 7 BIOHAZARD. Capcom needed to bring Resident Evil back with a bang, and Resident Evil 7 BIOHAZARD did just that. Players control Ethan Winters searching for his wife Mia on the Baker estate and encountering all manner of horrors. Along with a return to the survival horror format of yore, Resident Evil 7 employs a first-person perspective and the new RE engine. Not only does this help deliver a more gruesome level of fidelity, but the horror finally feels visceral after so long. Pro tip: fear Jack Baker. That's all. The Last of Us Remastered. You could consider The Last of Us as more of an emotional story or third-person survival title, but the horror element is tough to ignore. Whether it's the oppressiveness of the clickers, fighting off bandits, or the long, arduous journey, The Last of Us keeps the tension high. And who can possibly forget the experience of playing as Ellie and trying to fight off David, which then led into the emotionally charged climax. Layers of Fear. Less complex than many of the games on this list, Layers of Fear nonetheless hooks you with its premise. A once prolific painter searching his house for materials with the fate of his wife unknown. Well, sign us up, especially since the descent into madness results in more surreal scenarios as time goes by. Layers of Fear succeeds on the basis of its atmosphere and visuals, even if the gameplay isn't terribly involving. AMNESIA: The Dark Descent. First-person horror titles were nothing new, nor were games that effectively toyed with your sanity. However, Frictional's AMNESIA: The Dark Descent did more than just combine these two aspects when it released in 2010. It had an atmosphere that relies on environmental storytelling, strong sound design, and a constant sense of dread to terrify you. AMNESIA: The Dark Descent simply showed us how a horror game could be great even if the graphics weren't groundbreaking. Soma. It would have been easy for Frictional to follow up AMNESIA: The Dark Descent with yet another first-person horror title, but Soma is something deeper. The sense of mystery and befuddlement is stronger as protagonist Simon explores the underwater lab of Pathos 2 with no memory of how he got there. Despite the presence of terrifying robots, the secrets of Pathos 2 unfurl, revealing a dark sci-fi fantasy with some interesting moral implications. Outlast. Of course, if straight-up horror that gets under your skin is needed, then Red Barrel's Outlast fits nicely. It follows Miles Upshur, a journalist who heads to Mount Massive to investigate some freaky occurrences. Deranged patients abound, from the hulking Chris Walker to the enigmatic yet brutal Walrider. Outlast has elements of psychological horror and stealth, but there's also a lot of manic running, dodging, and just plain not dying to be had. Alien Isolation. The Creative Assembly's Alien Isolation is a game of adventure, puzzle solving, and battling creepy robots. Honestly though, the main appeal is in outwitting and surviving against a lone xenomorph. Not only does the xenomorph actively hunt for Amanda Ripley even when she's hiding, but it also reacts to the motion tracker's sound and the flashlight. Oh, and it can't be detected inside of air ducts, so good luck if it suddenly decides to go for death from above. Alien Isolation is intense and truly worth experiencing, especially for its callbacks to the first Alien. Detention. Red Candle Games' Detention seems like a quirky game with its visuals. Despite being set in a cursed school and playing from a side-scrolling perspective, Detention incorporates elements of martial law and Taiwanese horrors to masterful effect. The shift in perspectives, the terrifying lingered that roam the hallways, and that feeling of digging deeper and deeper into a living nightmare make it one of the most unsettling titles ever made. The Evil Within. From the mind of Shinji Mikami comes a new third-person survival horror, which has some admittedly clunky controls. Nevertheless, the story of Sebastian Castellanos and pals as they venture into the nightmarish world of STEM, battling forces beyond their control along with corporate conspiracies, is quite compelling. The sheer range of horrors, from the Keeper to Laura, is enough to keep you on your toes. The Evil Within 2. Of course, if the original was too constrictive and claustrophobic, then The Evil Within 2 takes a grander scale with its nightmares. Various terrifying entities like the mama-like Anima and Obscura, composed of murder victims and a camera, inhabit the world. Sebastian is further stressed by trying to save his daughter Lily from psychopaths like Stefano Valentini. If all of this wasn't enough, you can experience the terror of The Evil Within 2 in first person. So, what more do you need? Lone Survivor. A post-apocalyptic title with retro 2D visuals. Yes, believe it or not, but Superflat Games' Lone Survivor can have its way with your brain. As the survivor in a city turned to ruin following a zombie outbreak, the main character must try and gather supplies to get through each day. With shifting rooms, terrible mutants, and other dangers, Lone Survivor is fairly intense. The Walking Dead. When Lee Everett, an escaped convict, meets Clementine, a girl looking for her parents, you don't initially appreciate the weight of that moment. And while Season 2, The New Frontier, and the final season all have their merits, it's Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1 which really cemented the terrifying circumstances of the universe. Characters have very real chances of dying, so Clementine's well-being, especially as her bond with Lee becomes stronger, is a constant source of concern. Season 1 is also worth checking out for having arguably one of the saddest endings out there. Slender: The Arrival. Is it the snazziest horror game on the market? Well, no, but it does bring the terror of Slender Man into a full experience. Slender: The Arrival takes place after Parsec Productions' Slender: The 8 Pages and sees Lauren trying to locate her friend Kate. Naturally, Slender Man is involved, and there are various decrepit settings like abandoned mines, houses, and so on to explore. So once again, if you're in the mood for some easy scares, well, Slender: The Arrival isn't the worst option. The Inpatient. Not the best VR game by any stretch of the imagination, but The Inpatient from the studio behind Until Dawn offers a fairly unsettling psychological horror experience. As an amnesiac patient trying to regain their lost memories, players must explore the Blackwood Sanatorium several years before the events of Until Dawn. Impressive visuals and a compelling atmosphere make The Inpatient worth checking out. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.